Yeah, the focus will be on Wembley this Sunday as Manchester United and Newcastle clash in the final of the Carabao Cup. Both teams enter the final on a high. Erik ten Hag's Manchester United have lost just one of their last 20 matches in all competitions, while Eddie Howe's Newcastle are fifth in the Premier League, their highest position since the 2011-2012 season. Potentially bad news, though, for Manchester United. Informed striker Marcus Rashford is a doubt for the game. The 25-year-old, who has scored 23 goals in all competitions this season, including 5 in as many Carabao Cup matches, limped off during Thursday's 2-1 Europa League win against Barcelona at Old Trafford. And Ten Hag says he isn't certain at this stage whether Rashford will be able to suit up on Sunday.
Will Marcus Rashford be available for the final? There are some concerns that he may have picked up an injury last night.
I don't know. So players now coming in. We have to do investigations, medical, of course. Yesterday we did, but so straight after the game, most of the time you can't say. We have to wait for 100% diagnosis. So let's do the medical, the work. We have to wait.
Newcastle have not won a major trophy in 67 years, and manager Eddie Howe has sought to encourage his troops by posting this message in the team's meeting room on Friday morning. We have not won a domestic trophy in 67 years. Well, there you have it. What a reminder to his players to go out and fight against Manchester United on Sunday. Joining us to preview this encounter is our international football correspondent, Simon Evans. Simon, it's good to have you back on the SportsMax zone. How are you doing on this Friday?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to what should be a really interesting final.
Yeah, for sure. Simon, first of all, the teams have met once this season. That ended in a draw. How do you see Sunday's match playing out?
Well, I think as you said, they're both going into it on a high in terms of how their seasons have gone. But Newcastle have struggled a little bit in February. They haven't won a game, but they've drawn quite a few. They've not had a slump in form. But the big issue for them is their goalkeeper Nick Pope is suspended for this game, and their backup keeper Dubravka is cup-tied because he played for Manchester United on loan earlier in the season. So it's going to be Loris Karius probably in goal for Newcastle, a player who maybe viewers will remember from his appearance in the Champions League final against Real Madrid for Liverpool some years ago, which was something of a disaster, really, that he hasn't really recovered from since. So that's going to be a big question mark over Newcastle United in this game.
Right, and speaking about question marks in Ricardo's introduction, there's also a question mark by one Rashford, who has been in hot form for Manchester United. What does this do to the Newcastle setup if Rashford doesn't start?
Well, it makes things easier for them because, United are lacking a little bit in firepower. Rashford's been playing in his favoured position on the left. Possibly Jadon Sancho would come in there. With Anthony on the other side. That's probably the most likely way they would deal with it, which still gives them a potent attack. But Rashford has been scoring for fun. He's been in incredible form for United, and it would be a major loss for them if he couldn't play at Wembley.
Yeah, and Simon, I think, it's important that we stress how important winning this silverware, this piece of silverware, will be to Manchester United and Erik ten Hag. And we have to remember that Erik ten Hag just came into this setup not too long ago. It's not as if he was with this team for a very long time. What will this do to Manchester United's confidence, and it's already high, if they were to walk away with silverware?
Yeah, I think it's a really big deal for United. I mean, people will turn around and say, well, it's not the Premier League, it's not the biggest trophy, it's not the Champions League. But to win something was seen as something really important to his predecessor, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and he couldn't get there. And it hangs over you if you don't get that first trophy. So I think it's really important for him. I think it would be a setback for United if they didn't pick up this silverware and carry on pushing this season, because all the signs are there that United are on the right path and are improving and have a stronger squad than they've had for the last 4 or 5 years. But they need to prove that.
Simon, we had a robust discussion earlier on this week about coaches' comments pre-game, and sometimes based on their narrative maybe handing a psychological advantage to an opposing coach. there was a position that Ricardo took then. I just said that to say this. Eddie Howe's presentation this morning, presenting to his Newcastle team that they have not won a major title in 67 years. How would the team take that? Is that something that if you were a coach, you would use to rile them up to get 150% out of them?
You know, there's a couple of ways of looking at that one, isn't there? Because on the one hand, yes, it fires them up. But on the other hand, coaches always tell you their players are already fired up and they need to just treat each game as another game and approach it with the same game plan and execute and all the cliches that they come out with. But, you know, does it put a little bit of extra pressure on them? You know, the weight of history is now on their shoulders as they contemplate those decades without winning a domestic trophy. We'll see. I think it's just probably knowing Eddie Howe, who is not a sort of hype-up type of manager or coach. I think it will be a way of him telling his players, you can really do something special here, and they would. It's an incredible city as Newcastle with football. It's underachieved, really, given that, you know, they fill that stadium with 50-odd thousand every week and got huge crowds even when they were in the Championship. And for them to finally get some domestic silverware would be a historic performance from them.
Yeah, and I know we touched on Marcus Rashford before, and there isn't much we can say about him because he is at this stage questionable, and Ten Hag wasn't able to say anything conclusive at the press conference today. But let's say you're a coach, Simon, and at match time, Rashford is 80% fit. What would you do with him?
It's a really difficult one, that, isn't it? Because United are still really in the chase for the Premier League title. I don't think that they're favourites by any means. There's Arsenal and City really above them in that race, but you know, they're still in with a shout, and you don't want to lose Marcus Rashford for a couple of months and by aggravating it in a game like this or in any game. So it would be a difficult one. I would think they would err on the side of caution. Perhaps if he's touch and go, start with him on the bench. See if you can get through that game without needing him. If say Sancho or Anthony Martial can do the job for you, and if not, you bring on Rashford with 20 minutes to go as an impact sub, which we've seen him do many times as well. So you know, I think they will be careful. I don't think it's a case of this game is so big that they have to strap him up and send him out, whatever the consequences might be.
Yeah, and Simon, you know, clubs, they love to be comfortable. And we all know what happened to Eric Pope on the weekend against Liverpool, picking up a red card, which means now they bring into their setup a new goalkeeper, Karius, who hasn't really been playing with the team consecutively or even for a long period of time. What does this do now to a Newcastle team that appears to be clicking? I mean, they've reached so far to a final. With this particular goalkeeper, they now have to reset and come again.
Yeah, well, I think Pope is one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, so he's going to be a huge loss from them. He's been in excellent form since he went to Newcastle from Burnley in the summer. Makes big saves. He's really, you know, a goalkeeper who can be the difference between winning and losing. And to have to bring in somebody who not only hasn't played with the team, but also has had that, you know, those psychological question marks over him since that collapse he had really in the Champions League final, and tried to rebuild his career in Germany. Didn't quite do that convincingly, but he's ended up as third choice at Newcastle, and suddenly he's being thrown into this game. That really could prove to be a very, very decisive loss for them, and in my opinion, a ridiculous situation that somebody gets a red card in a Premier League game and then gets suspended for an entirely different competition. Yeah,
well, an opportunity for Karius, as you said, to rebuild his career. Let's have a look at the head-to-head between Manchester United and Newcastle in recent times. As I said, the last time they would have played would have been in this 2022-2023 season. It was a 0-0 draw. They played in December 2021 as well, a 0-0 draw there. So the last two matches ending 0-0. September 2021, United winning 4-1. United won 3-1 in February 2021, 4-1 in October 2020. December 2019, United won 4-1. Newcastle's only victory coming in recent times, coming back in 2019, a 1-0 victory for the Newcastle team. So Manchester United would have had the better of the head-to-head, but those last two matches I think, quite instructive, especially when you think about some of the comments made by Erik ten Hag in the build-up to this match, Simon, that Newcastle is an annoying team to play. And the feeling around the league is that they waste a lot of time. How does Manchester United manage that? How do they handle that on Sunday, if any at all?
Yeah, look, I mean, that history tells you that Newcastle United struggled for a number of years, didn't they, in these games against United, and they struggled in many games. They were down the wrong end of the table under Steve Bruce, and it's really turned around with the investment they've had from Saudi Arabia and also under the stewardship of their coach Eddie Howe. They're a completely different team than they were back in those days when they were getting beat 4-1 in 2019 and so on. So it's a totally different side, a confident team, a well-organised team, and they are a team that can be annoying to play against, and you know, they can be quite physical when they want to be as well. But you know, United have just come off the back of beating Barcelona. You know, they should be feeling very, very confident going into this game. But Newcastle have players who can produce things. Miguel Almiron is a player who can produce something out of nothing. Saint-Maximin is another player who can do that. They have quality delivery from Kieran Trippier. So they've got a lot of things in their favour of Newcastle, but I think United start this game as favourites.
Your prediction, Simon?
I think United will win 3-1.
I hope you're right. Let's talk some Europa League now, because the round of 16 matchups were drawn earlier on Friday. Union Berlin will take on Union Saint-Gilloise. Sevilla versus Fenerbahce, Juventus, Freiburg, Bayer Leverkusen against Ferencváros. Sporting Lisbon, Arsenal, Manchester United versus Real Betis, Roma versus Real Sociedad, and Shakhtar Donetsk against Feyenoord. The matchups for the Europa League round of 16. Which of these catch your fancy, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, you're looking at United after that win over Barcelona and thinking, can they go and win the whole tournament? Betis is a tough draw for them, though, isn't it? And you know, I think Juventus will be another team who, despite their problems in Italy, be looking at this competition. But the Roma game there looks particularly interesting. I've lost the graphic there, but you know, I think that's going to be a team that, you know, Roma against Real Sociedad. That's a Serie A La Liga clash. That's going to be a game that I think will probably be the most closely contended. Sporting Lisbon, Arsenal. Oh, Arsenal. That's a game that could easily be a Champions League game. So there's good games all the way through there. Well done on the Ferencváros pronunciation, by the way. There's not many people can get the Hungarian pronunciation right. You did very well with that one.
Hey, thank you very much, Simon. I appreciate that, and I hope you have done well with your prediction and Manchester United will win. I'll take 3-1, I'll take 2-1, I'll take 1-0. I'll just take a Manchester United victory, so I hope you're right.
See, we got rid of one Manchester United fan from this show, and we've got another one in, I see. So,
Simon, I think it's a requirement. We need to fix it. We need to stop it.
Simon, and if you get rid of me, it will be another Manchester United fan that replaces me.
And I'm always stuck between both of them.
Yeah, well, Lance is not really a Manchester United fan, but that's a discussion for another day.
Okay.
No, you're not, Lance. You say things like you almost never say we. You say you, they, the team, never us, we.
We have to go.
We have to go to a break. Simon, we'll talk on Monday.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.